Well, thanks for making me a little emotional. No, it's good. It's good to be in the house of the Lord. I've waited a long time to say that. Where do we go from here? As I stand up here tonight and I talk about and tell you my story, I don't want you to see me. I want you to see the relentless pursuit of Jesus and how he pursues the hearts of us, his children. I heard a long time ago they called him the Hound of Heaven, and it confused me a little bit. But when he got it explained to me and I understood, and I've been in a few places in my life, and God's like, I've been here the whole time. You might not have seen me, but I'm here. I'm just getting you to wake up. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about family and how important it is for them to be in the church. I'm going to talk a lot about my family tonight and how some of the roads and things we did in our lives kind of made us end up where we're at now. Maybe do a little heart surgery. It's always good. But I remember growing up in this church, and it was some of the best times of my life with Dana and Dustin and Carol and Grandma Penny, and we just had such a great family. Everybody loved each other. And I remember waking up on Sunday morning, and it's time to go to church. You knew it was. And we'd either take the scenic route in the springtime and really enjoy that, and then we'd get to church, go through Sunday school, and we'd go home. Well, we'd get home. The part I didn't like was taking a nap. I didn't like that very much. But we had to, because we'd either fall asleep underneath the pews, which happened often, But no, the church was just such a great foundation in my life. And a lot of things that I didn't see as a child is reading scriptures at home. Okay, my mom and dad did a lot of their praying behind closed doors and all of that. And Grandma Penny was a prayer warrior for all of us. Sure, she's here. So, let's get to the hard part. We left the church. I remember my Uncle Dave was the first one to leave, and I remember going to Sunday school and asking to pray for him to come back to church. I never knew why. I didn't really understand. I just knew that church is where you're supposed to be. This is where we're at. This is where our family's at. And slowly, the devil took that. He took it, and he ran with it. I seen my parents fight more. We stopped going as much. My mom loved the music here. She loved just being in the house of the Lord. And my dad, he wasn't having it. He wasn't having it anymore. They slowly started drinking more, and my mom focused more on college and things like that. And we actually moved from the old house to a newer house. And things really changed there. They really did. It was, it was stagnant. There wasn't that joy. There wasn't that love. There wasn't that family, And slowly but surely, things really started taking a turn for the worst. All I had was my brother, and we'd go hang out with Dana and Dustin, things like that, and they'd be like, hey, you want to go to church? And we'd be like, yeah, sure, And then it got to the point to where our lives kind of separated enough that we just weren't in the church as much. But I was always rooted with the love of Jesus in my heart. He never left me, not one time. And I've been in some pretty dark places in my life, and I did a lot of bad things, and we'll get to some of those. But it's so important to have your kids in church and your family. When I had my daughter, her mom's not really a believer. She believes, but she believes in her own way, which is fine. And getting her I've had her come to church and everything, and how it gets a little complicated. But it was important for me to have my daughter in church, and because I knew that it's helped me if it wasn't for Grandma Penny and all the prayers, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't. Not to say that I have 9 lives, but I'm lucky to be here. And especially blessed with a sound mind and everything. So it all started, we fought a lot. Every night at my house we fought a lot. And then my brother went to the military. And when he went to the military, I was left there with my parents. And we didn't have I was probably not easy to handle. But on my 15th birthday, I was at my friend's house. And he's like, hey, come with me. And I'm like, where are we going? He's like, just come on. So we go in this little shed, and we partied there all the time, okay? Young kids partying, drinking, stuff like that. And it just dawns on me what's happening. We're doing a drug deal. And I'm like, why am I even here? So somebody's pounding on the door, and they're wanting me. Well, I think my brother found out that I'm in here buying drugs, and that's over for me. He didn't like that at all. Anyways, I go out there. I was nabbed up immediately, and I start fighting. Well, it turns out they were just giving me my birthday spankings. So I lucked out there, I thought. But further down the road, I really wish he knew, because that started a whole life for me that I'm not really ashamed of it, but things could have went so much different. And I'm proud of who I am today. But there's a lot of people that don't make it out. They really don't. So I started doing meth when I was 15 years old. I was a great baseball player. I loved playing baseball. I didn't really like school so much. Didn't really have a good structured family at home. So when it got to the point of when you let a kid kind of just do what he wants, or you don't have any structure, he's gonna find his own family somewhere else. And I eventually did that. I dropped out of high school. One of the coaches there, he was a scout, a baseball scout, and I was walking down the hallway, and he asked me where I was going, and he goes, and I told him, I'm like, I'm done. I'm out of here. It's over. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm dropping out. And he goes, it's really sad. He goes, you got what it takes to make it out there. And I was like, well, see you later. I couldn't wait to go get high, you know. Well, eventually, I was still living with my parents and things like that, and things went from bad to worse. Just constant chaos in the house. So my buddy Reno, he stole some weed from his mom, okay? And she kicked him out. Well, I'm like, you can come live with me, you know? So he's living with me, and we try to figure out ways to get out of school, okay? And so if you miss so many days of school, they drop your credits. Well, we had one day we could do. Well, we always talked about wrecking the truck. That's a freebie right there. That's an excuse. So on the backside of Briarbrook, we're coming out, and there's these S-turns, and I see a tree, and I said, put your seatbelt on, and we nailed it, going about no brakes, no nothing, boom. He blacks out. I slap him around a little bit. He wakes up, we get out, and we're just like, I don't know what happened, you know, just to get out of school. Well, I get home, he's living with me, and we smoked a joint downstairs, outside, and he's like, I'm really hungry. I'm like, well, I'm really scared to go upstairs. Like, I don't want to go up there, because I just don't want to deal with that. It's just going to be bad. Well, later in the evening, he's like, man, I'm hungry. And I'm like, you just don't understand. Like, let's not do this, you know? Well, it kind of quieted down. I was hungry too. So I snuck up there, got some food, and here comes my mom. And I can't remember what I said to her, but it was calm, it was collective, and I kind of told her off. And my dad comes in, started a fight. We get into a fist fight. He slams me up against the wall, and off we go, off to the races, man. I left that night. I was walking. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about my stuff. I was done. I didn't want to go back. My friend talked me into going back to get some of my stuff, but I was done. I was done putting up with that and living there, and I was a mess. So I went and lived at Joe Hood's house. We called it. It was 17th and Harlem. We called it the Crack Shack. Anyways, I didn't know where to go. I had a place, but Reno couldn't go with me. So we kind of parted ways, and I went down and lived with a friend of mine, Carson, Brandon Tate's dad. We grew up together. And I'd been doing drugs with him too. And I started doing concrete. And I think I was 17 years old at that time. But I didn't have anybody. So that started a foundation of the life that was set out for me from then on out. Drugs, chaos. It turned into couch hopping and things like that. And it got to the point to where I was in and out of jail. You name it, I've probably done it, helped do it. I just didn't know any better. But so when I could tell you some stories, and you'd be really surprised why I'm alive, but I think we're going to leave some of those out of this. So every time I went to jail, I would open up the Bible and I'd start reading Ephesians. Every time I went. But it took me so long to understand. I didn't have that love, that life that I lived of chaos and hate, and I didn't understand. I didn't have a good foundation of love at home. You know, I'm not saying my parents didn't love me. I know they do. And my mom's going to see this. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry. But I didn't have a really good foundation, so I went with whatever I had. Well, it took me to when I was about 26 or 27 years old. I was out there doing some really nasty stuff. I was cooking meth, which I had been basically apprenticed to do that this whole time. But I finally took things, because I was just tired of dealing with all that too. I figured I was tired of getting in trouble, so I was doing it a little bit quieter, okay? And things didn't work out the way that I planned. I didn't have a place to live, didn't have anywhere to go, so I was on survival mode. I was just running and gunning out there. Well, I ended up going to a guy's house for some chemicals I didn't know. And I had a bad feeling. The girl that was with me and the guy that introduced us, we were in there. She had to go to the bathroom, and she goes, "We need to get out of here right now." And I said, yeah. Like, that's the first feeling I had, but I'm playing it cool. Let's go. So we walk out of there, and we're getting to the car, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we got meth lab in the car. I mean, this is not a place to make a scene. So he comes out, and he's like, "Hey, did you take something or move something?" And I'm like, "What?" And my friend goes, "Well, move's better than taking." And it was very strange to me, and I just shut it down. I said, "If we got a problem, let's take it inside and talk about it." So we went inside, and it turned into a big fight. Me and him fought for over 30 minutes in the house. I thought I was going to die. The girl I was with came in. I told her to leave because there's guns everywhere. There are over 200 guns in this house, if not more. They're everywhere. Anyways, we get out of there. I took a lot of things from him because I felt like he didn't deserve them. I'm being honest here. No, I tied him up, made the guy that brought me there sit on the chair on his neck, and until we loaded up and left. Well, lo and behold, we went somewhere else, and the guy that was with me thought I was going to kill him. He got on his knees and started crying, and I had no intentions of doing that. Like, I really didn't. But my intensity level, I was pretty scary back then. I didn't understand how scary I was until I did get out of prison and talk to people, and they were like, you were a pretty scary guy just to talk to. Like, you just didn't know what you were going to do. Well, I didn't like to hear that because I always thought I was pretty open and a loving person. I always thought I was fair. But anyways, I was on the news. I wasn't personally, but the people that did this crime was on the news. So what do when you have just screwed up so bad in your life that all hope is gone? There's nothing left. I had nightmares about it, and I'll never forget it. I went outside on John's porch, and I looked up at the sky, and I asked God, I said, God, I've done something really bad, and I need you to make good out of it. Whatever it takes, I need you to help me make this as good. And the next day, things started changing in my life and moving. I've been in and out of jail a bunch of times, and I'm not any mastermind running from the law or anything like that. Like, I would, eventually, month or two, I'd get caught. Well, I went on the run for 2 years. Okay, God protected me, and He put me in a house with some people that had a foundation of God, and they were some of the greatest loving people. After what I had done, they knew what I did. They knew what I'd done. Their daughter was with me, and we both are looking at 15 to life. And they still love me. I didn't understand that then. I mean, I did, but this was God's process of slowly working his way through my life. Like, this is the foundation I want you to work with. These are the people that love you. This is who I want you to be. They love you regardless of what you've done. So I eventually, things were getting pretty heated. And a buddy of mine, Jeremiah, comes into town from Alabama, and me and him have been through some crazy stuff, stealing motorcycles together. He's had his neck broken twice. Cops ripped the halo off him once. He's just a wild guy, okay? But he's family. And he shows up, and I'm like, oh, my God, you're alive. You know, I couldn't believe it. Like, we had no idea where you've been. He's like, yeah. He goes, I'm doing great. I live down in Gulf Shores. I got a couple kids. I'm married. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing, let's go to have a talk, you know, because I'm not doing very well. But it's good to see you. He's like, well, come see me. He's like, seriously, come see me. So I did. I went down there, seen him, started going to church, and anyways, the U.S. Marshals picked me up down there, and I was still getting high, things like that. I was going to church high, you know. Let's show up. You got to show up. You know, you really do. When life's hard, you show up. Whether you have an addiction problem or not, there's people that will help you, and I feel like God honored that in my life. So don't ever be ashamed. Shame's a thing that really. So let's back up a little bit. So the healing process of your heart is so important. When my mom's dad died, she never let that go. She never did. And I've seen death and things like that eat you till there's nothing left. And it puts up a big wall between you and God, because it just creates a big callus on your heart, you know, and then it clouds his love. And the devil will take and grab you and make you his friend, and you won't even know it, not really, especially when you're in addiction. You'll get in there, and he'll be like, hey, let's go for a ride, man. Like, yeah, sure, no problem. This is fun. Yeah, this is great. He's like, okay. As he's talking to you, he's tying you up in a chain. Okay, and he's still talking to you, and everything's cool. We're getting ready to go for a ride. Well, you're tied to the back of the truck, okay, and you still think it's okay. Addiction's like that. He will tell you, he'll be dragging you for years and years and years of your life, and you will still love what we're doing. You're beat up, you're bruised. You can't see past that part. And then everything that you've done, you're so lost, you don't even know who you are anymore. And it takes so long to come back from addiction to find who you are and rooted. I've been clean for over 10 years now. And every day still a struggle, not with the addiction part, but getting to know who I am and getting to let any of that go. It's so hard. And it's a continual process. Anyways, back to my story. The U.S. Marshals come, pick me up down in Gulf Shores and bring me back. It took a week in a van, just driving all over the country. And I'm like, hey, Joplin's right there. You know, it was pretty terrible. But we get there, and I get dressed out, and I go back. And I'm like, whew, finally home. Like, this is a place I recognize, you know. So there was no light in my cell, okay. Jasper County did not have very good, they didn't keep things up very good. But anyway, so I'm sitting there reading my Bible by my window in Ephesians, and it was like a wave hit me, whack. And I was like, whoa. I couldn't believe it. God's like, hey, I finally got your attention. Here you are. You're sober. You're finally sober. You're in the Word. Now let me show you something. Let me show you what I've been doing in your life. And he takes me back, and I start seeing these last 2 years, he's just showed me love. And he's put me with people that did nothing but love me and showed me how to be a man, how to care for people, how to love people. And that life wasn't any good to me anymore. All that running and gunning and everything like that wasn't no good to me anymore. And then, so this is one of my favorite scriptures. It's Ezekiel 19. It said, I will give them an undivided heart. I will put a new spirit in them. I will remove from them their heart of stone and give them a heart of flesh. Then they will follow the decrees and be careful to keep my laws. They will be my people, and I will be their God. But as for those whose hearts are devoted to their vile images and detestable idols, I will bring down on their own heads but what they have done, declares the sovereign Lord. So I was like, I get a new heart and a new spirit. This is great. Good news. It's good news. God has just showed me the love through other people that he has for me. Just, like I said, it's a continual growth thing. So while I was in there, God started showing me people's hearts, okay? I don't know if any of you have ever been to jail. Sometimes it's a scary place. Not so much for me. I really didn't think so. Being in there was, we all have to live together. Why do we have to fight? You're broken. I'm hurt. Everybody in here is broken and hurt. Let's talk about Jesus. Let's do it. You know, I was tired of seeing it. I was sick and tired of seeing it. So I said, you know what? I told everybody, I said, here's the deal. I said, anybody's more than welcome to come, but every day I'm going to sit right there, and you can come join me, and we're going to talk about Jesus. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're doing it. So after that, man, it wasn't really that big of a struggle. When God wants something done, he does it. I couldn't believe it. Like, I had been in and out of that place, and it was like the Thunderdome. My Uncle Tom was a jailer up there, and there was another jailer up there. I can't remember his name, but he couldn't believe it either. He kept bringing Bibles in. Grandma Penny kept bringing stuff in. It was great. So the stories and the lives of all those men in there was just incredible. The way God showed me to talk to them and help them. And in the end, aren't we all just broken? I mean, we're all sinners. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that I'm perfect, because I'm not. I struggle every day with a lot of things. But I know that the love of Jesus surpasses everything. So when I got out, well, I got sentenced. So I was looking at 15 to life, my attorney told me. It was first-degree robbery and armed criminal action. It's a Class A felony. So I'm like, no. No, I just knew. I'm like, nope. I was talking to God. Didn't really make a deal with him, but I'm like, look, I can do 3. I can probably do 3. Like, here's the deal. Because if I have to do 15 to 20 years, I'm going to come out a way different person than you're going to want. I was just being honest. So I didn't have an attorney. I had a public defender. So and she was loaned out from Mount Vernon. So she wasn't even familiar with Joplin system or anything. She was so confused. She didn't know. And I mean, if you read my motion to discovery, if you know what that is, it's just the report of your whole case. I got to read it, and I was like, ooh, that's bad. That's real bad. I'm like, here, you read this. See if you tell me a different story, you know? And they're like, nope, that's bad. That's really bad. So I didn't know. So I just kept trucking along. Like, in my heart, I knew I had faith. I was like, you know, it's not like I hadn't earned it. You know, I had earned some time. Like, I get that. I wasn't in there like I didn't do it or anything like that. But I knew where I was rooted with Jesus at that point in time. So, man, I was in there for about a year. I wish I could tell you about all the cool stuff that happened in there. But it changed a lot of people's lives. I mean, the guys just come in there so angry and hurting, and then they just want to fight. Well, you start looking at it, and you start understanding, well, yeah, you messed up. Yeah, you might have been on drugs. Yeah, I'm such a disappointment to my kids. I'm such a disappointment to my family. So what else do I got? Nothing. I'm just mad. I'm angry. So what do? They lash out and take it out on other people. Well, they can't take. I just want to love on you. You know what I mean? Like, come here. Let me tell you about somebody that loves me. You know, and we're not meant to carry that baggage around. But we do. We still do. There's some stuff that I still carry around. I'm like, I'm not ready to give it up yet. You know, and that hinders my relationship with God, and I know that. But it's a slow process. But just getting out and Twyla hit it today. I was listening today, and what a great introduction this morning's service was for today. It's so important. It's not just me. I'm not up here talking about my story. Every single one of you have a story, a big story. And you know what? The worse it is, the better it is. It really is. It's funny so I'll tell you, I've been having a lot of things going bad in my life here recently. It's not really just the devil, it's just life, really. And it's hard. And if I didn't have a strong foundation in the Lord, I probably wouldn't be up here talking to you. It's so important, dealing with death and just dealing with other people's problems. Not really other people's problems, but some really sad stories that your friends are going through. And just the opportunity to tell them. It's really hard. It's really hard to talk about Jesus and not sound too corny sometimes to somebody. Does that make sense? Especially somebody that doesn't. You're like, well, maybe he believes, you know, but you have to trust God. You have to. And you say, you're like, if I've had to pull away and be like, Lord, just give me an opportunity. Open the door. And he does every time. And I'll start talking about it, and they'll start talking about it, and they'll be like, you know what? The other day, this happened. And he's like, kind of skeptical. And I'm like, well, somebody's trying to get your attention. You might want to give him a ring, you know, because he's there. He's always pursuing us, and it's so beautiful. And it's so, speaking of pursuits, he still pursues me quite often, okay? And I'm not as faithful as I should be. So it's kind of funny. I think it's funny. But I'm sitting there in my house. So my brother passed away last year, not last year, but the year before, December. So mom and dad kind of went down the rabbit hole. You know, they've been doing that most of their lives, but just not really doing good in their health. My cousin got shot at right after my brother passed. There was probably 8 people that died that I knew in like 4 months. So I never really had time to heal. I mean, there was times I'm looking at God like, what are we doing right now? What are we doing? I know you won't ever give me more than I can handle. I mean, are you preparing me for a bigger battle in life? You know? And it just hurts, you know, and every day. So that takes a toll on you, you know, because I wasn't in the Bible. I wasn't doing things. Just sad. Well, I like to watch like criminal shows and things like that, or something I can learn something from. Well, Medea, you guys know who Medea is? Okay, so I'm like, well, maybe I need something funny tonight. So I turn it on, and I'm watching it. And Medea it's a man, it's a woman, she's a grandma, and she's always packing heat, man. She's a gangster. And there's somebody in her house. And she's like, I know somebody didn't break into my house, you know. She goes downstairs, and there's these 3 little kids with a VCR in their hands. She's not being easy on them, you know. But it turns out that their mom is dead, and the person that takes care of them, their grandma, she's gone too. So they're just out there trying to survive. Anyways, make a long story short, and they have to go live with their aunt. And the aunt is not living good, not living right, hates these kids, wants them out of the house, doesn't want anything to do with them. And just to watch the transition, the way they show it, and God working on her heart, and just hearing the church sing, and God just flooding her heart, and she has had it so wrong for so long. And the love, and I just start crying, man. I was just in tears, falling apart, and I'm just like, I am so sorry. I've been blinded for so long, feeling sorry for myself, you know, poor me. So I open up the Bible, and it says in Psalms 37:4, it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And what hit me the hardest was delight. Delight. I kept ringing in my head, delight. When was the last time that I actually delighted in the Lord? I haven't. I'll pray. And then down here it says, what does 3 say? It says, trust in the Lord and do good. Well, I've been doing that part, you know, fairly. You know what I mean? I really have been. I've been helping people, doing good, living the best that I can. Still feeling sorry for myself. But delight, it kept hitting me. And I was like, man, how do you even do that? And it's like you grew up in church. You see them do it. You do it all. You go up here, just get to church. Just get to church. And I'm like, well, where do we start? And I seen Caleb's post, Faith Tabernacle, and I was like, well, God's like, whack, right there. How about there? Start there. How about that? So, man, so it's funny. It really is funny because I'm not a really big people person. I am, but I'm not. So when I came here, I came late on purpose and slipped in and tried to slip out. But, man, I just got flooded with love, you know. Even I was a little uncomfortable. I was like, you know. And I'm a hugger, though, too. So it was really nice, at the outpouring of love. But I was coming to church. Didn't tell anybody, okay. Finally, I'm sitting at my buddy Caleb's house, and we're talking. And he goes, there's something that's been missing in my life. And I said, oh, yeah? Because he's been going through some problems, and he goes, I think we're going to go to church Sunday. And I'm like, I've been going to church the last month, like it's been great. He goes, I feel like that's missing in my life. And it's funny how God's given you affirmations throughout you coming back, and he'll even test you. He really will. I went into I went into Ace Hardware, and I look over. This guy's praying for another man there, like in the aisle, and God's like, "Hey, go over there," and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." And so I'm doing this awkward pace, right? I'm watching, and then I turn. I'm like, "Okay, no, I'm not going. I'm not doing it." God's like, "Come on," and I'm like, "No," and by the end it was over, right? And then they're both looking at me, and I'm like, I give them the thumbs up, like, "Good job, guys." Well, then I see the guy. I didn't see it at the time, but he had a gun, and it's like a couple grown men praying for each other, vulnerable as that is, somebody else coming in touch, But I didn't trust God. God's like, "See, what are we doing? You got to trust me, and He'll do things like that in your life, But God's just so good. He's so good. I don't know how much more time we have, but it's so important that we reflect on our lives. It really is. We start praying and reflecting on our lives, and God will start showing us some things. And then once we start figuring out where we went wrong or what we've done, we can relate to other people. When they start telling their story, you can be like, "You know what? I've been there. I understand." And you can walk them through it. Then that builds trust. That builds love. That builds relationship. Because we're all scared of shameful things we've done and things like that. I'm a very honest person, and I will tell my story to anybody and everybody who wants to hear it anytime, because there is hope. There's hope for anybody in addiction. There's hope for anybody that deals with... The devil likes to keep you in a spot. I've sat there in those pews, and where you lay your burdens down, it's hard. Sometimes it's so hard that you feel this big weight on you, going, "Don't go up there. Don't do it. Don't do it." But when you stand and you come up here and you start praying, things start changing. They really do. But I had a lot more to get through tonight, but I just want to thank you guys, and I just love you. You guys have been so good. Yeah. But get out there and tell your story. Go help somebody. It strengthens your faith. It strengthens your love for God. We all got to do our part. It's important. So.